decision-making meeting of the Town of East Troy Planning Commission for the month of July. I'd like the record to show that all commissioners from the last meeting are present. And for the audience, this is our decision-making meeting. So what's going to happen is we are going to have our discussion among commissioners. We're going to make our decision, and we're not going to take any input from the audience. First item on the agenda is to review and approve the meeting minutes from July 10th. Anybody have any issues with July?
Not done yet, they'll be ready for the next one, because there was only a week in between.
My apologies. That first item on the agenda is going to be skipped over until next meeting. So the next item on the agenda is a rezone conditional use tabled from June 5th, 2024. N8828 Stringers Bridge Road, East Troy, PET 1800006A, West Rod Cottage Industries. So in the last week, I've gathered quite a bit of information I'd like to share with you guys. First of all, according to Jim Mills, just a couple procedural things. He feels it would be clearer that we make a motion to accept, and if it, even the person that makes, say you make a motion to accept, but you really don't want to accept it, you want to deny it, we make a motion to accept it, so it's not like a double negative. And then if the motion does not carry, we do not have to vote on it again as a negative motion. So if anybody makes a motion tonight, if we can make it a positive motion, so make a motion in favor of. If you're against it, vote against it. If you're for it, vote for it. However that motion carries, positive for the positive or negative for the positive, that's how we want to do it. So if anybody were to make a motion tonight, they should make a motion to accept. And again, even if it's your motion, you don't have to vote for your motion. You can vote against your motion. The next item is that he feels that it would be cleaner as well, and I agree 100% that we treat the rezone as one motion or one topic of discussion, and the conditional use as a second. Now, if the rezone were to not pass, we don't have to bring up the conditional use because the conditional use is not in effect in C4. So just a couple of those things to bring up from Jim Mills as far as the way we conduct ourselves tonight. So my research, I want to just start by defining C4, or the definition from the zoning code. C4 is a shoreline wetland district. Primary use of this district is to preserve, protect, and enhance lake streams and wetlands in Walworth County. The proper regulation of these areas to serve and maintain and improve water quality, both ground, surface, prevent flood damage, protect wildlife habitat, protect location of structures on soils when generally not suitable for such use, protect natural watersheds, protect the water-based recreational resources of the county. And what the applicant is looking for is C2, so I'd like to just do the definition of C2 as well. To preserve forest lands, scenic topography, watersheds, potential parks, recreation areas, land maps, larger parcels of woodlands, steep and scenic topography, and some abandoned gravel pits, etc. Provisions, permits, scattered single-family dwellings, farming and related practices, stables, etc. requires a minimum parcel size of 5 acres and 300 feet in width. So, in my opinion, this property doesn't really come up to either of those, but I know everybody, including me, C4 is that definition. That's, I think changing it to C2 is not appropriate. Not that we're here to give anybody a suggestion. It's probably more of an appropriate for C3, which is a minimum of 100,000 square feet. But in my opinion, changing C4 to anything is not in our best interest. I have some comments from Jim Mills. Jim's comment to my email. I found the Planning Commission minutes from August 1st, 2012 for a Stas rezone from C4 to C2. Request tax parcel PET 1800006A. I do not know the current tax parcel. Is looking for it. I think Fred's Tap has one tax parcel. But the biggest thing in this, in any event, The minutes indicate the reference parcel has 134 feet of frontage pursuant to the survey. So again, I just wanted to point that out. There was some discrepancy between 256 feet of frontage and if we were using the chord method, that was just one thing that Jim brought up. The other thing he brought up, I watched the video from the Plan Commission meeting on Wednesday. I have never been in the business of determining lake frontage and never will. Mr. Stas knows or should know that the only time I ever was on his property is back in 2012 or so when he filled in a lake area with wood chips, and I met Chief Sturgis, a DNR representative, Attorney Lyle Blackburn, and perhaps Joe Klarkowski. I do not know what possessed Mr. Stas to inaccurately report that I figured out the frontage of this parcel. That never happened. Please read this or present it to Mr. Cook to read prior to any decision by the Plan Commission. I think the county would want the town to consider other things, the nature of the land adjoining property classification, the size of the lot and the zoning. I think the property north of Stas on the lakeside parcel is zone C3. That zoning classification the county had wanted for Mr. Stas in the past. However, I have told the board, possibly the Plan Commission in the past, it is not the board's responsibility to recommend zoning classification. So the big thing there was, I know Mr. Stas mentioned that it was Attorney Jim Mills that told him how much frontage he had, and that absolutely wasn't the case. So I wanted to clear that up. And then lastly, as I read it before, it's C4. I don't think it belongs as C2. Possibly C3, but there was nothing submitted on behalf of West Road Cottage LLC that contradicted the serious environmental concern set forth by the letters opposed to the request or public comment of residents and experts. While the public comments and letters in favor of the request are document the applicant's longstanding in the town of East Troy, a resident business owner did not in any way sway the need for conservation C4 property, as we're a custodian to do so. It would be irresponsible for us to lessen the conservation in this area without compelling reasons to do so. We denied it in 2013. I just don't see any reason to deny it again. That's just my opinion and my research that I wanted to present to the board. So I'd like to have any other discussion or concerns or any other feedback.
I think the only thing that I'd like to add is, since you just indicated it is not 250 feet, it is 134. I think it just needs to be noted that will definitely impact the number of boats, period. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration or passed along, because again, that will not entitle the number of boats being requested.
Okay. Or you mean what's there currently, or?
Well, what he's asking for.
Sure.
So if this gets approved or denied, I guess to me it doesn't matter. As one point, I mean, that is a critical point, obviously, but I think it cannot continue to be carried forward that it's 250 feet.
Sure.
It has to be noted.
Sure.
It is not.
And I guess I didn't really preface this by saying, I think because we're handling rezone as one and we're handling
Yes.
rezone first, that all my comments are in relation
Got
to
it.
the rezone.
Okay.
So would you prefer we keep this discussion limited to the rezone?
I think let's do that, because conditional use is not applicable. If, I think if we have the discussion about the rezone, even potentially make a motion to in favor or oppose, then we can continue on to the conditional
Okay.
use.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Yes, sir.
So I spent a lot of time thinking about this over the last week, and my thinking is very similar to yours, that Walworth County designated this property as C4, which is a conservation district, specifically shoreland wetland. And as you said, the primary purpose of C4 is to preserve, protect, and enhance Lake Beulah. Furthermore, and this was talked about last week, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources designated the shoreline of this parcel one of only 8 sensitive areas on the lake. And they've also designated it a critical habitat area. And then as planning officials, our other guiding principle is the 2021-2030 Land and Water Resource Management Plan that was developed, 10 plus years ago. We're to use this as our guiding light. And if you read one of the goals of the plan is to preserve and restore Walworth County environmental corridors, including natural areas, critical species, habitat sites, and wetlands. So I like you, think it would be irresponsible of this commission and me personally if we were to consider reducing the conservancy status of the property, and much less allow it to be used as a marina. And I'll also add, at the meeting a week ago, there was at least one person that spoke on behalf of John and another person that wrote a letter attesting to John's character and referring to the commission having potentially a bias towards John. And I just want to make it clear that's not, this is all about the facts. It has nothing to do with the applicant, it's the facts. And I would love to have more options, more food and beverage options on Lake Beulah, but we can't do it at the expense of the quality of the environment and our lake.
Go
I
ahead.
think I agree 100%. In addition, I think this property has extra eyes on it, specifically because it feeds the lake. I view it kind of like a bottle. You have all this water from Pickerel coming in, and his property is kind of like the cork, which needs to be filtered. And if it doesn't, that volume is going to just push and push and push and do more damage beyond that property.
Sure.
And that has huge ramifications on that lake. And I think the other point that was made, and I think it's worth noting, because there are a lot of people saying we need more activity or eatery on the lake. And I think it was pointed out that John has every opportunity to open up Fred's Tap on the other side. So this is not related in any way, shape, or form to that decision for him to open that eatery if that's what he wants to do. So no one is limiting him, and no one is taking personal negative shots at him. It is based on facts.
Anybody else like to
I agree.
discussion?
I think when I look at the zoning aspect of this, it's, a rezone to a C2, C4 would, on the surface, be consistent with the land and use, the 2050 plan. However, where I get really hung up from a zoning standpoint is in total, the property's 0.45 acres. It doesn't, I think it presents a whole host of concerns in terms of lot size relative to a C2 lot size. Setbacks become a real concern with a lot of this shape. I think there's probably other ways to go about looking into an appropriate zoning classification for the area of the property that's outside of the 2012 wetland delineation. I also take issue with and this came up at the first meeting, but with the wetland delineation being dated in 2012, I know there's some discussion back and forth with the DNR that the applicant provided in the county, but these wetland delineations are assured for a period of 5 years. And we tend to have a practice of, with rezones relative to wetland delineations, of, rezoning in accordance with that wetland delineation. And then that drives setbacks and things like that. And then from there, that leads into land disturbance type concerns, things like that. So the commentary from the DNR was really generic, and it didn't comport with Walworth County zoning practices where, we tend to zone on that wetland delineation line. Other counties might treat it differently, but for Walworth County, we do follow that line.
Mm.
So to me, that's material too. Like, I don't see why we want to, given the sensitive nature of the site, why we would want to consider basing a zoning decision off of an outdated, non-assured wetland delineation.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other discussion? Then I think I can take a motion on the rezone. And again, so a couple things, just for the video, if we could raise our hands. So I want it to be approving, so a motion to approve. If you're against, don't raise your hand first, or if you're, yes. So if you're for it, raise your hand first. If you're against it, raise your hand second.
Could we possibly do a roll call vote?
I don't know that that's necessary. We've done it this way every other time. So I would take a motion if anybody would like to make a motion.
A motion to approve the rezone of PET 1800006A to C2.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to approve? All those opposed to the motion to approve? Motion's denied. At this point, we do not have to have any further discussion regarding the conditional use because it's a moot point with C4. If there's any other business amongst commissioners or public comment, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.